In the previous part, we saw that Lady Rowain finally entered into a contract marriage with Duke Dimitri. Later that night, while she was alone, a mysterious cat suddenly appeared out of nowhere, which made her very happy. However, the cat suddenly ran away from her. What Lady Rowain didn't know was that the cat she saw was actually Duke Dimitri himself. The Duke Dimitri returned to his office, feeling relieved that his identity had not been exposed. But the more he thought about Lady Rowain, the more mysterious she seemed. It had been only a small noise he made, yet she still noticed him. And what he saw next surprised him even more. She was crying. Crying because she missed her cats. This was not the image he had of the notorious woman who was rumored to cruelly abuse and kill Beastmen prisoners. Dimitri watched silently, amazed. Even demons could cry that sadly. The next morning, Linier and Nigel embraced each other tightly, tears flowing down their faces. With this scene, Lady Rowain feels extremely awkward. Quietly, she gives them her gold and tells them to use it to escape far away and live safely. Linier's eyes filled with joyful tears. She thanked Rowain sincerely, saying that without her help, escaping would have been impossible. She even admitted that she had misunderstood Rowain all this time. If only they had talked more before, things might have been different. At that moment, a man informed them that everything had been prepared. It was time to depart. As Linier and Nigel stepped into the carriage, Lady Rowain told her sister to take care of herself. Linier replied that she would never forget this kindness. And if Rowain ever needed help, she should not hesitate to contact her. For the final moment, Lady Rowain told her sister to live happily and live freely. Linier smiled brightly and tells her not to worry, encouraging her to stay happy. Then the carriage departed from the Blois Duchy, beginning a new journey with Nigel by her side. Soon after, a butler arrived with several maids. He informed Lady Rowain that the master wished to have breakfast with her, and the maids had been brought to assist with her preparations. "These 2 maids will now serve you from today onward," the butler explained. Both maids bowed respectfully toward Lady Rowain, but they looked extremely nervous. Considering Rowain's terrible reputation, she could understand why. So she calmly told them not to feel awkward or uncomfortable. "Let's prepare quickly," she said. "I can wash myself. You only need to help me with the dressing." The maids exchanged glances. Then they nodded in agreement. One of them even asked if they could speak freely with her. Lady Rowain allowed it. Honestly, she had never expected that some people were even more nervous around her than she thought. And she'd dress up quickly. Another thought crossed her mind. Why did Duke Dimitri suddenly want to have breakfast with her? At this rate, she felt like she might get indigestion before even eating anything. Soon, she followed the butler down the corridor. He guided her toward the dining hall. When the doors opened, Duke Dimitri was already sitting at the dining table. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating him. For a moment, Rowain stared at him without blinking. Basking in the sunlight like that, he honestly looked like a lounging cat. And suddenly, she burst out laughing. Her laughter immediately caught the Duke's attention. Rowain quickly apologized, saying she had laughed without any particular reason. Dimitri simply replied that he did not mind. Then he gestured for her to sit. "Let's eat together." Rowain sat down, still thinking. Yesterday in the carriage, she thought he was an extremely irritable person. But now he seemed different. Another thought suddenly crossed her mind. The cat she saw yesterday in the annex garden. What kind of cat was it? Was it a stray? Or someone's pet? Its fur color had been strangely similar to Duke Dimitri's hair. But that was impossible. Why would the Duke come to the annex where she was staying? Her thoughts were interrupted when she noticed something strange. Duke Dimitri's plate was filled entirely with meat. Only meat. Rowain blinked. Cats also love meat. Wait, could Dimitri also be a cat? She noticed his sharp teeth as well. Small fangs appeared whenever he chewed. Dimitri looked up. "Were you saying something?" he asked. Rowain instantly panicked. Her face turned red. She quickly changed the subject. "Aren't these cherry tomatoes adorable?" she said nervously. "They're so round and cute." And before she could say anything else, she shoved one straight into her mouth. Inside, she was screaming at herself. Why was she making so many mistakes today? Dimitri simply watched her. Then he spoke calmly. "Madam, since we are now married, you should move into my room." Rowain dropped her spoon. She stared at him in shock. Wasn't this against their contract? Why was he suddenly telling her to move into his room? Dmitri continued calmly. Marriage is a contract by nature, and cohabitation is implicitly included in that contract. Rowain immediately protested. Their agreement was not a normal marriage contract. Implicit rules should not apply here. She even suggested that they both pretend she never heard what he just said. Then she stood up and quickly left the dining room. Something was wrong. In the original novel, Duke Dmitri never bothered Linear like this. She needed to get out of there quickly. The butler turned toward Dmitri. "Why did Madame leave in such a hurry?" he asked. "Did something happen during the meal?" Dmitri looked down at the table. Then he picked up a cherry tomato. "Is this cherry tomato cute?" he asked. The butler blinked. "No matter how I look at it, it's just a cherry tomato." Dmitri frowned slightly. "But Lady Rowain said it was cute." He looked at the butler again. "What color is it?" The butler replied, "Cherry tomatoes are red, slightly orange. Perhaps she likes them because their color resembles her eyes." Dmitri looked confused. How could this resemble her color? Then the butler suddenly realized the problem. As a beastman with cat blood, Duke Dmitri could not see red clearly. Cats often struggle to distinguish red and green colors. So the butler explained. Lady Rowain's eyes are the color of ripe cherry tomatoes, and her hair is the color of red wine. Finally, Dmitri understood. Until now, he had thought her hair looked more like grass, which made no sense. But now it finally clicked. Still, something else puzzled him. Why did she become so shy when he mentioned sharing a room? In a world that despises beastfolk, revealing one's true form is considered shameful. Dmitri hadn't even been serious. Most nights, he slept comfortably in his cat form anyway. But there was one thing he did regret. He could no longer keep that sweet grassy scent close to him. Dmitri stood up. The butler asked if he was heading to the office. Dmitri shook his head. "No, I'm going to bask in the sun." A maid informed Lady Rowain that she had received an invitation to a tea party. Rowain was surprised. Who would invite her? She looked at the card carefully, and her expression immediately turned serious. This was bad. She never expected that she would have to meet this person. Still, she told the maid to help her change her clothes. Meanwhile, in the annex garden, Duke Dmitri had transformed into a cat. He was lying under the sunlight, carrying a cherry tomato in his mouth while basking comfortably. Suddenly, a cheerful voice called out, "Oh, you're here again." Dmitri immediately stiffened. Lady Rowain. She looked genuinely happy to see him. "You look even more handsome in the daylight," she said warmly. Dmitri became confused. How did she always find him so easily? Looking at her reaction, Dmitri realized something. She must think he was just a regular cat. Lena smiled brightly. "By the way, pretty girl, why are you carrying a cherry tomato in your mouth like that?" Dmitri's jaw dropped. Pretty girl? He was male, by the way. In his shock, the cherry tomato slipped from his mouth and rolled toward Lena. She picked it up curiously. "Did you bring this?" she asked. Dmitri felt extremely embarrassed. He had brought the tomato because someone told him its color was similar to her eye color. He only wanted to compare it. But now it looked like he had been caught. Panicking, Dmitri ran away while Lady Rowain tried to stop him. He quickly hid under a bush and began licking his paw nervously. Next time, he decided he would check her eye color more carefully. But suddenly Lena appeared right beside the bush. "Can I take the cherry tomato with me?" she asked. Dmitri grew irritated. In his mind he shouted, "Stop following me." Lena continued speaking happily. "Tomatoes help prevent obesity in cats. They're also good for anti-aging." Dmitri froze. Was she implying that he looked old and fat? He immediately started checking his body. Feeling embarrassed, he ran away again. Why was he getting so upset over her words? Not long after, several soldiers were talking among themselves. Suddenly, Duke Dmitri approached them with an angry expression. "We're going to spar," he said. "Follow me." The soldiers looked confused. "But today is supposed to be self-training time," one of them replied. Dmitri glared at them. "Just follow me." The soldiers quickly obeyed. They whispered to each other nervously. "Does anyone know why the Duke is so angry today?" During the sparring session, they soon found out. They were defeated very badly. After some time, Dmitri transformed into a cat again and returned to the annex garden. He still couldn't stop thinking about that woman. A woman who supposedly loved attention, yet quietly stayed in the annex. A woman who cried while thinking about her cats, even though she was known for abusing beastfolk. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious it felt. He needed to investigate her further. Not only that, he had also come here to mark his territory. Suddenly, he noticed something. There was a small box placed nearby. Inside the box was something that looked like a toy. Curious, Dmitri climbed down and walked toward it. When he looked inside, he could smell Lena's scent. There was a soft fur ball inside the box. He thought she had simply left some trash behind. But the moment he touched it, the ball suddenly moved. A small bell rang. Dmitri froze in surprise. Then he touched it again. And again. Felt strangely fun. He kept playing with the fur ball again and again, wondering why it felt so enjoyable. Then he looked up. And froze. Lady Rowain was standing there. Her eyes were shining with pure joy. Dmitri felt completely embarrassed. She had seen everything. He felt utterly defeated. How could he have been tricked so easily? Rowain smiled brightly. "Oh my God. You are so adorable," she said. "You're so cute. I'm glad you like the toy." Dmitri didn't understand what made her so happy. Without saying anything, he quickly walked away, leaving Lady Rowain standing there, slightly confused. Later, the butler was shocked to see Duke Dmitri return from his morning walk so quickly. "Your Grace, are you feeling all right?" he asked. Dmitri's face was slightly red with embarrassment, though he didn't understand why. He simply assured the butler that everything was fine. Back in the office, Dmitri tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept drifting back to Lena. When he was in his cat form, she approached him without hesitation. She praised him endlessly. She even adored him. And somehow, that feeling was driving him crazy. Why did it feel so strange? But the truth was simple. Duke Dmitri had begun to fall in love with her. Eventually, he decided to rest for a while. Soon, he fell asleep. But what followed was a horrible dream. A woman's voice echoed in the darkness. She laughed at him. "Dmitri, you look pathetic. Such a vulgar appearance. You pretend to act like a human even though you have a tail. It suits you better inside there. So why don't you just stay there forever? Look at you trembling. It's hilarious. You're an eyesore. Get lost." Dmitri clenched his fists. It was that dream again. That same nightmare. He forced himself to breathe. "I'm not a helpless child anymore," he muttered. But suddenly, another voice echoed. Lady Rowain's voice. "Duke Dmitri, help me." Dmitri looked up. He saw a woman grabbing Lena's neck tightly. Without thinking, he shouted, "Don't touch my wife." Dmitri suddenly woke up. It was only a nightmare, but something felt wrong. Why was he having this dream again? And why was Lena in it? He immediately rang the bell for his servant. A servant rushed inside. "Your Grace, is there anything I can help you with?" Dmitri asked one question. "Where is the Duchess?" The servant replied that Madame had gone out. She had accepted a tea party invitation from Lady Elvis. Dmitri's eyes widened. Lady Elvis, the woman who poisoned his mother. The woman who fed him a harsh magical poison when he was still a child. And now, she was targeting his wife. Dmitri stood up instantly. "Prepare my horse," he ordered. "It's been a while. I should go pay my respects to my mother." Moments before leaving for the tea party, Lady Rowain instructed the maid to prepare the carriage. She said she needed to go to a luncheon, but her personal maid rudely questioned her. "Are you planning to visit Lady Elvis wearing that outfit?" Rowain looked at her calmly. "Is there a problem with wearing pants?" In her own opinion, she looked perfectly fine. The maid hurriedly searched through the wardrobe. She nervously explained that Lady Elvis was a very dignified woman. "The luncheon she hosts is a formal event. You should at least dress appropriately," the maid said. Soon she brought out a blue floral midi skirt. But Lady Rowain clearly didn't like the dress. She looked at the maid and asked a simple question. "Does clothing determine a person's dignity?" Her expression turned colder. "Do I look undignified to you?" The maid stiffened. She tried to explain that women usually wore skirts for formal occasions, but that only made Rowain even angrier. "You are the one who doesn't understand," she replied sharply. Rowain slowly raised her hand. The maid flinched. She thought punishment was coming. But instead, Rowain showed her the ring on her finger. The ducal ring. "I am the Duchess," she said calmly. "The person you should address as Lady here is not Lady Elvis. It is me. She also pointed out that the maid had been using Lady Elvis's name far too casually. Then Rowain turned toward another maid. From now on, you will be my personal maid. Your name is Arzan. Correct. The maid was stunned, but she quickly bowed and thanked her. Rowain immediately gave her first order. While she attended the luncheon, Arzan needed to find a new position for Tilda. Rowain looked back at the first maid. It seems the role of my personal maid does not suit you anymore. Some time later, Lady Rowain arrived at Lady Elvis's mansion. But strangely, no one came out to greet her. She looked toward the mansion. Several people were watching her from afar, and they were clearly mocking her. Rowain quickly understood what was happening. They were trying to humiliate her. But Lady Rowain was not someone who would silently endure that kind of insult. She picked up a wooden stick and wrote a message in the dirt. It said that she had arrived. Then she turned to the coachman. Let's depart. The coachman was shocked. They had barely been there for a minute. Rowain calmly explained that she could not enter without the host's permission, so it would be perfectly fine to leave. The coachman nodded and began preparing to leave. But just then, a maid suddenly ran toward them. She stopped the carriage. The maid apologized for the delay, saying the host had been busy preparing for the luncheon. Then she invited Lady Rowain to follow her. The other ladies are waiting in the back garden. Rowain thought to herself that it would have been better if they had left earlier, but she still followed the maid. Soon they arrived at the gathering area. The maid announced her arrival. Lady Rowain has arrived. Rowain politely bowed toward Lady Elvis. It is a pleasure to meet you. Lady Elvis greeted her in return. She was the wife of the former Duke of Blois, which also made her Dimitri's mother and Rowain's mother-in-law. Lady Elvis apologized for not greeting her earlier. She claimed she had been busy preparing for the luncheon. But the moment her eyes fell on Rowain's clothes, her expression suddenly changed. Her voice became sharp. Do you not understand formal etiquette? I clearly asked you to dress formally. So why are you wearing that? Rowain immediately understood. Lady Elvis was trying to provoke her. Rowain frowned slightly but answered calmly. She explained that she had seen the instructions on the invitation. However, she had only recently arrived in Blois territory and didn't have enough time to prepare a proper outfit. But next time I will certainly dress appropriately, she said. Lady Elvis smiled thinly. She said she understood the situation. Then she offered to lend Rowain a suitable dress from the mansion. Would you like to change? Rowain politely thanked her for the offer. But she calmly explained that she had actually come to inform her that she would not be able to attend the luncheon. At that moment, a maid rushed past them. Whether it was an accident or not, the maid suddenly spilled juice all over Rowain's clothes. Her outfit was now stained. Lady Elvis smiled faintly. Your clothes are dirty now, she said. You should go change. She immediately ordered the head maid to prepare a suitable dress for Lady Rowain. With her clothes now ruined, Rowain had no choice but to agree. Some time later, the tea party officially began. The noble ladies were seated inside an ornate gazebo. After a while, Lady Rowain finally arrived and joined them. Lady Elvis smirked. Her plan had worked. Her daughter-in-law had finally appeared. But the moment Rowain stepped in, something felt strange. The other noble ladies looked at her oddly. Rowain didn't understand why at first. Then she glanced at the maids standing nearby, and immediately realized the truth. They had given her a maid's dress to wear. Rowain felt anger rising inside her. Lady Elvis calmly asked why she was still standing. Please take a seat, she said. It was obvious. She was enjoying humiliating Rowain in front of everyone. Rowain looked at the table carefully, and then she noticed something. There was no seat prepared for her. This had been planned from the beginning. The only available seat was a maid's chair. An apron had even been placed on it. The guests began laughing. All of this was clearly arranged by Lady Elvis. She wanted to humiliate Rowain publicly. Lady Elvis repeated her request. Please sit down. The other guests are waiting. Now she understood. Lady Elvis had planned this entire situation from the start. But Rowain had no intention of letting her get away with it. Here the video ends. Let's see how Lady Rowain will handle this situation. Will Duke Dimitri be able to reach in time to help Lady Rowain? We will find out in the next part. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.